In terms of your sort of profile across science, politics, academia, which ones have you noticed the most changing?
But I suppose, obviously, as a scientist, I would have to say Homo sapiens has been on the planet for 100,000 years, we think. The genes that made that brain 100,000 years ago are the same genes that all of us have got in this room. But what's extraordinary when you consider that it was 96,000 years before we actually invented writing. And now you have to say that the progress of the human mind is so rapid that we have no way of predicting where we're going to be in the next 5 years.
Do you think it's very real, the threat of Russia, the threat of Syria, the threat of, all these potential wars springing up?
I don't actually, no. Things are very different, and this is a much richer world. It's a world which is lifting itself out of poverty. We seem to be solving some, at least, of our problems through science and technology. I'm quite gloomy about British and Western attitudes and the way that things are changing. But in terms of the actual sort of positivity of everyday existence, I'm really rather encouraged by what I see.
I think, John, you've hit it absolutely right. Of course, we're bringing much of the world out of poverty. I don't think it's just the science and technology. I think it's actually more stable governments, of course, yes, make a massive difference. Yes. So wherever you start to have women's rights, better health care, you start to reduce population, and you do all the sorts of things that we're most worried about, of course, actually improve. It's not contraception, of course, which changes healthcare. It's actually having better facilities and better education.
And from your experience as someone who's been to, Iraq, Afghanistan, China in the late 80s, what would you say has changed in the way that news has been reported over the last couple of decades?
People's attention span is shrinking almost perceptibly. I would perhaps not year on year, but every 5 years, every 10 years, and things become shorter and shorter and shorter and quicker. And the whole notion now has moved away from what should I want to know about what's going on to what am I interested in?
That is a very important message for us, because now we're so ready, because of this short-termism and because of this ability to take the brief soundbite, which you're complaining about, absolutely rightly. It does program people's minds. We risk actually just accepting so many of these things without really looking at the underlying issues and the mechanisms. And to my mind, that's a very big issue for us.
Good stuff. Thank you very much, guys. Much appreciated.